Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. As debt repayment deadline ends, defiant Greeks rally behind its government. Prime Minister says he won't pursue austerity even if people voted for the referendum on Sunday. Iran's foreign minister in Vienna for nuclear talks as robust agreement still not in sight on the day of the self-imposed deadline. Tunisia arrests people associated with the gunmen who killed 39 tourists at a beach hotel last week. Country to vote on anti-terror bill in July. And Novak Djokovic and Serena Williams as well as Maria Sharapova advanced to round 2 at Wimbledon. Leighton Hewitt's 17-year-long All-England club career comes to an end. Well, opening the prospect of new elections if Greek voters agree to a bailout package, the Greek Prime Minister said that he will respect if the people vote yes, but would not be the one to carry it out. The proposed cash for reforms deal by the international creditors has little support, but the final decision will be taken on the 5th of July when the Greeks put it in a referendum, with Greece running the risk of a Eurozone exit.
Thousands of Greeks rallied in front of Parliament in Athens, backing the Tsipras government's rejection of the demands of its international creditors. With a crucial bailout referendum just days away, the majority is against the package that includes more austerity measures.
Έχουμε έρθει εδώ σήμερα γιατί πρέπει να πούμε στην κυβέρνηση και σε όλη την Ευρώπη ότι δεν πρέπει να κάνει πίσω. Τα μέτρα λιτότητας καταστρέφουν το λαό και πρέπει να τερματιστεί αυτό το πράγμα. Έχει υποφέρει πάρα πολύ ο ελληνικός λαός.
Το μήνυμα αυτό που θέλω να περάσω είναι ότι πρέπει να αφήσω στα παιδιά μου πίσω σαν κληρονομιά, αξιοπρέπεια και ελευθερία. Χωρίς αυτά τα μέτρα πιστεύω πως θα την αφήσω.
Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said he would respect the decision of the people if they chose to stick to the path of austerity, but said his government would not be the one to carry out the unpopular measures, adding to the speculation that he could resign if Greeks vote yes. Tsipras is telling the people that a no vote does not necessarily mean a Euro exit, but many say he's just understating the danger. European Commission said despite failed talks, the door was still open for Greece.
Με ρωτήσατε όμως κάτι και απαντώ. Την εκτίμησή μου θα σας πω. Βεβαίως. Ότι δεν είναι το σχέδιο το να βγάλουν την Ελλάδα έξω από το ευρώ. Το σχέδιό τους ήταν να τελειώσουν με την ελπίδα.
Η Ελλάδα βρίσκεται στο πιο κρίσιμο σταυροδρόμι της σύγχρονης ιστορίας της. Αντιμέτωπη με την προοπτική μιας πιθανής καταστροφής, αληθινής καταστροφής, χωρίς προηγούμενο σε καιρό ειρήνης.
Every government has the right to hold a referendum, therefore we respect the Greek decision. And it is not my role to interfere in Greek domestic politics. However, one thing should be very clear. If someone says that the government will have a stronger negotiating position with the no vote, it is simply not true. I am afraid that with such a result of the referendum, there will be even less space for negotiations.
Creditors warn that a default could see the country slide from the Eurozone with unforeseeable consequences for the Greek economy. Greece's €1.6 million debt repayment deadline expires today, putting further pressure on Athens to avoid a deep economic crisis. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the international markets have started to feel the effects of the Greece debt crisis, with several stocks falling sharply. The failed talks between Greece and its creditors have intensified fears that the country could be the first to exit the Eurozone.
The Greek debt crisis is expected to have a much wider impact, not just on its own economy, but the international economic situation too. Failure to strike a deal on the debt repayment and speculations of Euro exit and a possibility of a new Greek leadership have resulted in sharp reactions worldwide. The US stock market suffered its worst drop in 2 years on Monday after Greece closed its banks and imposed restrictions on cash withdrawals. President Obama revealed late Monday afternoon that he had spoken with French leader François Hollande over the crisis.
Well, obviously they have a democratic process in Greece that they'll have to pursue. And we believe that it's important for all the sides, even in advance of the referendum, to continue to engage in constructive conversations. And again, ultimately, it is in everyone's interest to reach a solution that allows Greece to return to growth and debt sustainability within the Eurozone, and they can do that if it's coupled with a package of reforms and financing. And that ultimately is, again, in the interest of all of the parties.
Indexes in Europe also took a hit. Despite being out of the single currency, Britain warned that the knock-on effects of the Greece debt crisis should not be underestimated. Government borrowing costs in Italy and Spain, two of the Eurozone's weaker economies, have also risen. Wanting to see a stronger euro, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang urged Eurozone officials to keep Greece in the group.
可以说，有几次都是用实际行动回应了希腊方面的一些关切和请求，因为我们希望希腊好。
The talks between Greece and its creditors broke down last week. The European Central Bank decided not to extend the emergency finance to Greece, leading to Greece banks having to shut this week. The Athens Stock Exchange is also closed as part of the emergency measures. But Athens is nowhere far from its troubles, with a decision expected on Sunday whether or not it would stay in the Eurozone. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Tunisia has announced that it will vote on an anti-terror bill before July 25th. This came as the country's interior minister confirmed arrests in connection with the beach hotel attack in which 39 tourists, mainly British, were killed last week.
Tunisian authorities have arrested a group of suspects associated with a gunman who killed 39 people, mainly British tourists, in an attack on a beach hotel last week. Tunisian Interior Minister made the announcement during a joint news conference with visiting ministers from Britain, France and Germany.
بدأنا في إلقاء القبض على كل على عدد ما نجمش نصرح به ولا بالأسماء ولا بالهويات، لكنه الذين وقع عليهم إلقاء القبض لحد الآن هم أطراف تونسية.
The ministers called for the stepping up of international anti-terrorism cooperation.
To fight against this perverted ideology that is causing this death and destruction. We are very clear that the terrorists will not win.
Implique que chaque pays s'adapte chaque jour et que nous renforcions chaque jour aussi ensemble nos dispositifs de coopération. C'est aussi le sens de la visite d'aujourd'hui.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister David Cameron told Parliament the Tunisia attack was not a war between Islam and the West.
In the weeks ahead, we'll go further. We will stand in solidarity with all those outraged by this event, not least the overwhelming majority of Muslims in this country and around the world. For this is not the war between Islam and the West, which ISIL want people to believe.
Tunisia confirmed its lawmakers will vote on an anti-terrorist bill before July 25th.
مقاومة الإرهاب مشروع القانون مقاومة الإرهاب يتم وتقع المصادقة عليه قبل 25 من شهر جويلية كما تعهدنا بذلك.
An emergency meeting was also called at the Arab League headquarters in Cairo to condemn recent militant attacks in Kuwait and Tunisia. The League urged members for unity in the wake of these attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the Iranian foreign minister has arrived in Vienna for nuclear talks in a last-minute push for a breakthrough in the diplomacy. It was still not clear whether Iran and 6 world powers would be able to bridge their differences and clinch a comprehensive agreement intended to block Tehran's path to a nuclear weapon in exchange for lifting harsh international sanctions. The negotiations have bogged down on several key points in recent weeks, including how broad United Nations inspectors' access will be to Iranian non-nuclear and military sites under an agreement, the timing of sanctions relief and the scope of Tehran's nuclear research in the first years of a deal. The US and the 5 other world powers are finalizing technical language on a framework deal reached in April. The White House is confident that the deal is within reach.
We're just working, and it's too early to make any judgments.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. The Delhi Value-Added Tax Bill is likely to be passed on the last day of the Delhi Assembly budget session. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
New government in New Delhi. New faces.
People are not investing because they are scared of your tax administration.
New thinking.
The auction process is a fair and good process.
You cannot have a one-size-fits-all reform policy.
For insights and perspective.
Judiciary should be more concerned about corruption within itself.
The Modi government slogan of "अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं." Soon the people's slogan will be "हमारे पुराने दिन लौटा दो."
The biggest show on economic policy. Watch State of the Economy.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. There's been another big step towards the establishment of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and that was taken on Monday as the member nations, including India, signed the draft charter in Beijing. With a capital of $100 billion, the Asian Bank is designed to finance infrastructure in Asia and rival the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. Here's more.
China hosted the signing ceremony on Monday to kickstart the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. Delegates from 50 nations signed articles that determine their individual share and the bank's initial capital. The new financial institution is set to rival the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. China, India and Russia are the three largest shareholders. Their voting shares are also calculated accordingly.
这种包容开放的这种姿态按照亚投行章程的这个规定呢，首先呢，亚投行要先成立，那么成立以后呢，才会有理事会，那么理事会再进行开会。
Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the AIIB in October 2013. A year later, 21 Asian nations, including China, India, Malaysia, Pakistan and Singapore, signed an agreement to establish the bank. The UK, Germany, Australia and South Korea are among the founding members. The AIIB will have an authorized capital of $100 billion, while Asian countries will contribute up to 75% of the total capital. Each member will be allocated a share of the quota based on their economic size. The bank, headquartered in Beijing, will fund Asian energy, transport and infrastructure projects. Japan and the US, that oppose the AIIB, are the most prominent countries not to join. While the US questioned AIIB's governance standards, China hailed the founding of the bank as a historic day.
今天签署协定呢，就标志着亚投行的筹建迈出了具有历史意义的步伐。我们很高兴筹建工作取得今天这样的成果。
Let me also highlight the great importance that Switzerland attaches to the compliance with international standards in terms of governance, transparency and best practices.
World Bank President Jim Kong Kim welcomed the signing of the Articles of Agreement. The AIIB is expected to go into operation later this year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning is economist Amir Ullah Khan. Very good morning, Amir. Thank you for joining me on the program. Now, as far as the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank is concerned, it has finally been launched. How will it really change the economic power equations around the world?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing to watch out for, that what is happening with this bank is that China and India are now going forth and putting their own views across the world. The important thing that we need to look at is that the needs for Asian infrastructure are high now, and the fact is that in Asia there is going to be a great deal of investment in transportation and in energy, and it needed some kind of a regional bank that would take this up. The first thing that will happen is that the IMF, which is historically been the agency that we've been part of, and where the voting for China and India has been at a very low standard, is now going to take notice that here is a bank where China and India both are going to be powerful, China much more so. The second is that there is going to be a little churn also in the Asian Development Bank, which clearly has a competition in the AIIB. But clearly what is happening is that there is a new bank, a new bank that has a pretty good corpus, and a bank that is going to take care specifically on Asian infrastructure interests.
Indeed.
Therefore, there is going to be some sort of a shift.
Indeed, there is going to be
towards
some
these
kind
two
of a
big
shift
Asian
is what
powers.
you're saying. But, you did mention the IMF and the Asian Development Bank. How is the AIIB really going to be different from the IMF, the World Bank or the Asian Development Bank?
Very simply, it is going to have a greater say on part of China. China is going to be absolutely dominant at the AIIB, and while China's vote percentage in the IMF has gone up a wee bit, it still finds itself outside the power scenario where the OECD countries dominate. So clearly, it is going to give China a greater say in Asian infrastructure development. With that, India is the second biggest partner, though it's the second by a distance. So India is also going to have a greater say. The important thing to note is that the entire world sees the focus of the economy shifting to Asia. And if in Asia there is going to be a greater dominance of China and India, then that is what they are going to look for, and that is what they are going to benefit from.
Indeed. And what is the main focus really of the AIIB going to be?
It is going to be energy, it's going to be transportation, it's going to be infrastructure. You will find that in the economies across the Asian region, which is the most populated region, whether it is South Asia or East Asia, there is a great deficit of infrastructure. So, and this deficit of infrastructure primarily has to do with the fact that these countries are capital starved. Technology is available, there is great demand, there is huge amounts of growth in these regions. So there is just this question of a capital that is required, and that capital will come from this Asian Investment Bank, which is in the interest of these regional powers, which is China, India, Singapore, Australia, etc. That is how the focus is going to remain, because infrastructure needs are going to remain very high for quite some time, particularly in India.
Talking about India, what is India's role in the AIIB going to be like, and also what kind of an impact is it really going to have on the Indian economy?
Right. Firstly, India is going to, in some sense, lead the bank. India has been given the presidentship for the next 6 years. So in a lot of ways, the leadership is what India needs to provide, the intellectual leadership, the managerial leadership, and that's why India's role becomes very critical, because as you just said, the US has been a little skeptical of the processes that this new bank is going to adopt and whether it is going to have a high standard of governance. So the focus is going to be on India, the responsibility, so to say. The second thing is that it is going to be India's lead in terms of taking infrastructure to areas that it wants to have an interest in. For example, India would like to see that countries that are friendlier towards India in the East are benefited disproportionately from the bank, especially countries where the infrastructure is particularly weak. The third issue is that India has been arguing for a very long time now that its position in the world, given its economic growth, is not being reciprocated by the rest of the world, be it in the United Nations or in the IMF or at the World Bank. So here is a place for India to actually come forth and give its views and steer world economic growth towards the direction that it wants to.
All right, Amirullah Khan, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us as far as the AIIB and what to expect from it. Moving on now, here's a look at the news and events lined up for the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. A 3-day CPI National Council meet will begin today in Chandigarh. The upcoming Bihar elections will be one of the key issues of the meet. The CPI will also discuss plans to increase its mass-based implementation of organizational decisions taken at the Congress and ways to oppose the centre over its anti-farmer and anti-labour reforms. The The budget session of the Delhi Assembly will conclude today. The Delhi Value Added Tax Second Amendment Bill of 2015 is likely to be passed on the last day. The bill seeks to amend the upper limit of the current value added tax regime from 20% to 30%. The Bombay High Court will hear Nestlé's plea to revoke the ban on its noodle product Maggi. The Swiss multinational company is seeking a judicial review of the Indian food safety regulator FSSAI's order of banning its top-selling 9 variants of Maggi instant noodles on health grounds. The Hyderabad High Court will hear the bail plea of TDP MLA Revant Reddy and 2 others in the cash for vote scam. The bail petitions were moved by Revant Reddy, Bishop Harry Sebastian and R. Uday Simha, who are presently lodged in Cherlapalli Central Jail. The Anti-Corruption Bureau had arrested Revant on May 31st. Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come, all the action from day 1 of Wimbledon. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
We are having millions and millions of children. We are misguiding most of them. Like Bangalore has, for example, 67 engineering colleges in one city. Everybody is going to engineering. Half of them don't get jobs. But is that the way to plan education? We have to chalk out a well-orchestrated program for the future of the children.
Watch Eureka with eminent scientist Professor C.N.R. Rao only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Novak Djokovic, Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova reached the Wimbledon second round on day 1 on Sunday as the champion of 2002. Leighton Hewitt's 17-year-long All-England club career came to a bruising end. Let's now take you courtside.
Defending champion Novak Djokovic began his Wimbledon title defense with a straight sets win over Germany's Philipp Kohlschreiber. The Serbian top seed won 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 in the opening match on centre court and goes on to play Jarko Niemi in round 2. Djokovic was playing his first competitive match since losing to Stan Wawrinka in the French Open final. He made 20 unforced errors but broke serve to win each of the 3 sets.
It's away and Novak Djokovic is up and running, the defending champion, with some symmetry here. 6-4, 6-4, 6-4.
While the defending champion cruised with ease, the day didn't turn up best for the other former champ, Leighton Hewitt of Australia. Fighting tooth and nail as only he knows how, old warrior Hewitt waved an emotional goodbye to Wimbledon after losing a dramatic 5-set match to Finland's Jarko Niemi.
For me, it's the home of tennis. You know, I don't get the same feeling walking into any other grounds in the world. No other tennis court, there's no other complex than I do here, and I really do. Get goosebumps walking into this place.
This is just the start that Gasparian would want.
In the women's singles on day 1, top seed Serena Williams, bidding to become the first woman since Steffi Graf in 1988 to wrap up all 4 majors in one season, endured a nervy start and was warned for swearing before completing a 6-4, 6-1 win over Margareta Gasparian of Russia.
Looking for her 6th Wimbledon title here, hoping for her 21st.
You know, it's definitely historic, I guess, but it's also 6 matches away, and it's definitely not guaranteed. So I'm just going to try to enjoy holding 3 right now and enjoy that moment.
Fourth seed Maria Sharapova of Russia held off a determined challenge from John Konta of Britain to win 6-2, 6-2 in her first round match. The 2004 champion broke Konta's serve twice in the first set before dropping her serve in the opening game of the second. Sharapova hit back with 3 breaks of serve to win in 85 minutes. Sharapova, the 2004 champion, will face Dutch qualifier Rachel Hogenkamp for a place in the last 32.
Sharapova is through.
Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more sports news now. Odds are stacked heavily against India as they face a huge task of going past the reigning world and Olympic champions, the Netherlands, in the quarterfinals of the Women's Hockey World League semi-final at Antwerp later today. World number 13, India finished 4th in Pool B as they lost 3 matches against Belgium, New Zealand and Australia and won only against Poland, while the Netherlands topped the other pool of the 10-nation Olympic qualifying tournament following consecutive wins over South Korea, Italy, Japan and France. India have to finish within the top 3 of the tournament to qualify for the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. It has been 25 years since the Indian women's team has made an Olympic appearance. The last time was in 1980. Well, here's a look now at the other overnight sports news you might have missed in our sports beat. Olympic bronze medalist Vijender Singh has turned professional, ruling himself out of the Rio Olympics next year. Vijender's decision means that he will no longer be eligible to represent India. He has signed a multi-year promotional agreement with Queensbury Promotions through iOS Sports and Entertainment that will see him fight a minimum of 6 times in the first year. Australia will host the first day and night test match under lights in November when they meet New Zealand at the Adelaide Oval. The test under lights will start on November 27th and will be played with pink kookaburra balls. The start time of the day-night match has not yet been decided, but the test could start at 2:30 p.m. local time and end at around 9:30 p.m. Czech Republic goalkeeper Petr Cech ended a highly successful 11-year spell at English champions Chelsea. The 33-year-old goalkeeper made over 400 appearances and won 13 major trophies during his time with Chelsea. Cech has joined Arsenal for an undisclosed fee. Manchester United have made a £28.6 million bid for Real Madrid defender Sergio Ramos. The Red Devils believe that the 29-year-old wants to leave Real after they failed to offer him an extension to his contract, which expires in 2017. Ramos joined Real from Sevilla in 2005 and scored their injury time equalizer in their Champions League final victory over Atletico Madrid in 2014. Sebastian Vettel had the chance to drive a Ferrari Formula One car at the Hungaroring for the first time. Vettel was putting on a demonstration for Ferrari fans at a Ferrari race meeting at the Budapest track just under a month before the Hungarian Grand Prix takes place on July 26th. The German driver, who left Red Bull Racing at the end of 2014, is in 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship behind Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg of Mercedes. That's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.